There's just a lot to talk about today, so let's get right to the intro. Hey, it's Soul, and this is Warcraft Weekly, the show that sits so high your spit can't even reach us. You can help support the channel by liking this video, subscribing for more WoW coverage, and catching me live whenever I'm streaming. Patch 11.0.5 and the anniversary event begin this week to a mix of reactions, starting with surprise. Realms were up and running over an hour ahead of schedule, causing widespread confusion and panic, but mostly relief. And then panic all over again. Players ran into numerous bugs with not just the event, but classes and instance problems plagued the first few days of the patch, reinforcing the lesson that maybe you should just wait till the weekend to log on when most everything will be okay. It's kind of okay now, right? The sheer number of problems felt exceptional though, so how did we get to this point? Or have we been here for a while? I hate to say I told you so, but a while back I questioned whether the WoW team was kind of stretching itself thin between the modern and classic eras and the very strict cadence of releases, especially with Dragonflight and now The War Within. Now, I know that separate teams work on both games, but I have little doubt that at times there are overlaps, like for example with Quality Assurance, who typically gets the blame for what we might look at as oversights. It wouldn't surprise me one bit if many of these bugs were in fact found and reported, but were under this, I guess, threshold where decision makers who decide, what and how much gets worked on would delay the patch. So I guess those were just left unfixed. In other words, these bad experiences we're getting, and they are negative, I'm not trying to downplay them, they're bad, but it's survivable, and it's better than pushing production back. A delayed game is eventually good, but a rushed game is forever bad, said no one said this exact quote, and we're also talking about a patch for a 20-year-old game. The point is, development in live service games is many times more complex and punishing, especially when you have something with this much history that you still need to look over. A lot of what I do here on the internet is to observe and communicate, and I see a lot for this team to juggle, and there's no winning. I ask myself, would folks prefer longer maintenances that might disrupt our usual daily schedule or weekly schedule? Instead of 8 weeks between patches, hey, how about a 10 or 11 week patch schedule like in Legion, which could mean maybe fewer patches and having to maybe artificially stretch out content with like time gating? Or we could have the 11-week patches, but also still have those 0.5s and 0.7s, which would mean like a 7.5-month-long season. Would we be happy with that? For context, that would make this season that we're in right now, it would go on until mid-June, which would also put us on a 2.5-year-long expansion instead, because the lull has to happen sometime, season 4 or not. I'd like to know what you think, and there is no wrong answer, but we'll definitely come to disagreements, including whether more time would even be effective at quashing out all these bugs. And as expected, gamers dove into the anniversary event to partake in its many activities, or at least the ones that awarded anniversary tokens. A lot of folks are going for certain milestones like obtaining their first coveted tier 2 appearance, and working towards obtaining a total of 100 tokens, after which they can no-life farm for the remaining tokens they need. And surely people are happy about it, right? I mean, this patch added new seasonal world bosses, time-walking dungeons, time-walking raid, deterministic rewards that only take a few hours a week to farm up, not feeling forced to switch to multiple alts. It can be very nice for those of us who only have so much time on their hands per week. It's also maybe a nightmare for those of us who prefer like a non-stop grind so we can just get it over and done with. I've done a good share of listening and noticed that many of us are conditioned with the word event or holiday, and we think, yep, we gotta get it done quick before it ends in a week or two, just like the Hollow's End event, which just started. And in the case of the anniversary though, we have considerable time, not to mention anniversaries returning in the future. According to Wowhead, 49 celebration tokens can be earned this week, 36 of them being ones earned from running the anniversary and regular War Within content. Based on that, we can guess as soon as this coming reset day, people can start obtaining their first tier 2 ensemble, and by the start of week 3 can get their second ensemble, as well as get access to ungated tokens, activities that can be hard farmed and shared with alts. At least that's what we're led to believe. We'll see when the time comes, and I'll report it on Mondays. There's a lot of discourse over the pressure to go through a weekly checklist when this is supposed to be a celebration, which some might define as, just showing up and getting free stuff in the mailbox. That's what the trading post is for, and that's next week, but I guess that's not the point. Critics ask, what's with all these different things to do? There's so many currencies and systems that steer us towards certain content and carefully placed to control our behavior. It might be controversial to say that this event, this patch, this expansion, it's not only a celebration of 20 years of World of Warcraft, but also the culmination of its design, which you may or may not like. Like, no one here is trying to defend the approach or say that you are wrong. Collectively, though, our input, much of it contradictory, it led us here. Some feedback was spoken out loud, others were more data-driven, but it's how we got dungeons as sustained endgame, and more recently we got delves. It's how a lot of what we do is shared across the account, including credit towards things, so it doesn't feel like alts have a huge advantage. Sometimes we forget the game runs even when we're not playing it or not subscribed, and somehow the lights need to be kept on. With respect to how the game keeps us online while rewarding us, I want to point out that the weekly activities in the World Within for gear have this kind of newfangled system we're familiar with by now, where the first few activities give us gear, a few more are what gives us delve keys, but we can choose among these activities. I like that sort of design, and it might have been cool to apply that to the anniversary event. So like, for example, out of 4 different weekly quests in Sonaris, maybe 2 of those events will give me the share of anniversary tokens for that area. So instead of feeling compelled to do the time walk and raid and dungeon, I could do the world bosses and outdoor activities instead. I like choices like that, and I totally get it when people feel compelled to do a bit of everything, even activities like PvP that they don't want to do, so I'm glad that they don't reward as many tokens, because I ain't gonna do them. It's not hard to argue we're not being forced to do all that much either. Now, of course, I'm only speaking for my player behavior, but aside from doing like a time walking week and a few extra world bosses, my routine doesn't feel particularly impacted. There's also one important source of tokens we don't know anything about yet, and it's the guest relations, this Secrets of Azeroth kind of thing that'll have us solving puzzles. I still feel reassured. People who are just looking for a handful of rewards of not being super completionist, they're gonna get what they want by the time the event ends, and people who are looking to hard farm, of course they're going to have that opportunity maybe as soon as next week, but definitely the week after, and then you do you. November is going to be a big month for World of Warcraft, and we should expect more than a bit of celebration. On Wednesday, November 13th, 10 AM Pacific, Blizzard's holding what they're calling the Warcraft 30th Anniversary Direct. They're talking it up like a must-see event, going as far as to say you don't want to miss a moment or a single surprise. On top of that will be a broadcast of their 20 years of music concert held earlier this year, and there's going to be some rewards for watching. So what should we see with this Direct? I have big hopes we'll see a roadmap of the rest of this year, along with most, if not all, of 2025 for the War Within and the classic era of World of Warcraft. But what'll we see? With the announcement came this key art worth looking at, and for one, it looks really good. There's so much fan service here, but here's what I'm noticing. Back here is Medivh, who we haven't seen since I think his ghost form during Legion. Also check out Thrall, and Jaina, Tyrande, and Sylvanas, all in outfits reminiscent of their Warcraft 3 roots. The real spoiler came from tracking websites to identify a 2.0 update to Warcraft 3 rewards. So I'm expecting an update to this to be huge, maybe like an apology to the original release, which was not well received back and has since been getting tweaks here and there. But will the Reforged team go above and beyond? Will they do more than just fix what was busted? Maybe they'll introduce new campaigns to play through, maybe even have new story. That would be huge. Of course, it would also piss people off, like, oh my god, now I gotta buy this too. But for now, I'm gonna keep an open mind, because I also predict, and this I have nothing really to refer to, I predict something big is coming to WoW Classic. Now, in case you don't know, I don't play the Classic era games, but I am cheering it on because I want to see all of WoW succeed. A true shill stays consistent. But as for what could be added for Classic or Classic Plus, because I do have mixed thoughts about the kind of Classic Plus where brand new lore developments are added. I know I wouldn't want to feel like those of us who played through vanilla back in the day would then be told to basically play like another MMO in order to experience more World of Warcraft story. However, if there was some Classic Plus kind of thing with new story beats, I would expect the equivalent to be added to the War Within or whatever modern expansion too. That way everyone gets to enjoy these new developments together. If not that, I wouldn't be surprised at all with an announcement of Mr. Pandaria Classic, Season of Discovery still has some life to be squeezed out of it, but eventually it'll end with a kind of uncertain future. Classic Hardcore, I don't imagine there being too much to do there, but I bet you folks have some much better ideas about that and the other classic eras. I mostly think if there is going to be a surprise, it's going to be here. Hearthstone expansions come so fast I can't really keep up, and Warcraft Rumble gets sort of similar treatment. So what about the War Within? It's going to be a long, 3 weeks until the Direct, which is a lot of lead time. Now, this might surprise you, but when WoW players are given a lot of time to speculate on something, we just might build up unreasonable expectations. I don't think it's our fault, though. Last time this happened was the Plunderstorm tease when the 2024 roadmap was introduced, and the speculation lasted for months to where people were pretty exhausted towards the end. The team acknowledged that was a bad move, and this several week wait, it's not so bad. We'll be busy plodding along doing anniversary stuff, but between now and the 13th, it is pretty likely we'll learn about patch 11.0.7, maybe have a PTR up and running too. It'd be a waste of bandwidth to give more than a few minutes on that during the Direct, so I gotta ask, will we be looking past that? Will we be looking further ahead? A possible roadmap is likely to give us a bunch of clues as to what's next, and it's a bit hard to notice, but the War Within main story has been creeping along in the form of a bi-weekly meta quest that has us collect these Titan disc things, and then we learn more about Azeroth's past. But that's kind of all. 11.0.5 has yet to reveal any questlines that really push the story forward, and the impact so far is turning out much like Dragonflight's 10.0.5. If anything, maybe hints of big class or systems changes for 11.1 might be teased. But in all honesty, it probably won't be any of that. 30 years of Warcraft, right? 20 years of World of Warcraft. That's a rare thing to celebrate. So more than anything, I'm counting on this long pause to soak in Warcraft history. We're going to see old pictures contrasted by virtual tours of the campus and everything that's been built. We're going to hear from developers past and present. We're going to see a victory lap. That's it. And music at the end. And if we're going to set expectations, I'm going to feel good. I'm going to get things, and I'm not going to learn much. That's what I'm going to tell myself. And there'll be surprises and rewards for people watching. I'm curious to hear what you're hoping and expecting. Drop your thoughts in the comments. In fact, when we first learned about this Direct thing, one of the first things I did was buy up a bunch of WoW tokens in anticipation of there being something to buy, because, we're going to get Black Friday stuff. That tends to happen around that time too. There's no shortage of promos on the way. We've got a charity bundle. There's a snack promo coming. Howl's End that just started too, with some really cool looking rewards and lessons learned from FOMO. But what I didn't expect was what happened just the other day. The Brutosaur is back. It's better, it's stronger, and in a way, it's cheaper. Just this past Thursday, the store revealed some new mounts to sell, one being a pack of 4 mounts celebrating Warcraft 3's playable races, and they're great, but no one cared. Okay, people cared, but this was eclipsed by this new Brutosaur mount, complete with auction house and, new to the game, mailbox access. So, whenever you can mount, dropping a mailbox has no cooldown. Now, before I continue, I want to make this very, very clear. You should not be judged for what you decide or decided to do. So if you bought or you will buy this mount with gold or cash, cool, you do you. If you won't, also cool. What players decide to do with their gold or real money, it's their business, and it doesn't make for any good discussion to attack our fellow players. Now, if you think Blizzard's being more than a bit greedy for adding this in when they said they wouldn't bring back a super expensive auction house mount and taking advantage of FOMO because this mount is only available till January 6th, there's no defending that. Have at it and vote with your wallets. Just don't be shocked to see how people ended up voting. Let's explain this early surge though. Ever since the first Brutosaur was mostly taken off the normal market and put into the black market auction house, players who missed out have been waiting for this moment, because think of how it was just a few days ago. If someone wanted the original Brutosaur, they needed to 1. Find it on the black market, and 2. Be the first to bid 10 million gold for it, because that was the only way to lock in an unbeatable bid. So imagine these folks who've been slowly saving up, suddenly presented with this opportunity to basically buy 6 WoW tokens for this mount. And in every token market, by the way, 6 WoW tokens is way cheaper than 5 or 10 million gold for the original Brutosaur. So with prices like this, naturally the WoW token suddenly disappeared from the market. It's a rare moment when the token actually sells out. And we can't understate the possible longer term impact. This mount's going to be in the shop until the end of the anniversary event, which is like January 6th. An unknown but sizable number of people are going to buy this mount via WoW token to, they're going to farm up gold and buy available tokens for a total of 6 and then get this mount. $90 is a lot of money for a digital good, and the price is both prohibitive to deter easy buying, and it's greedy, yeah. It's also thanks to the WoW token that it's affordable for people in certain regional markets where the cost of digital goods like a WoW subscription is very, very high. 6 WoW tokens of gold means weeks or more's worth of income depending on your region, so the approach is pretty obvious. I'd say a lot of these purchases already happened over the past few days, but we're going to look back on the sale period as one of, if not the biggest period of wealth distribution in World of Warcraft's history. The original Brutosaur was a gold sink, where every one that was bought was 5 million gold taken out of circulation because gold was just going to a vendor. Post BFA, it became a 10 million gold sink, but far fewer of these were being sold across the regions. This Brutosaur is of course being bought with real cash for those who just don't want to wait, but I'm willing to bet a ton of these will be bought with the WoW token economy, with the token price and availability having a certain ebb and flow during the promotion. And this isn't going to be like a new Diablo game coming, or even like a new WoW expansion announcement. There's a high cost and a purchase window. It's limited time. You can call it FOMO. Let's remind ourselves the token is powered by players. Tokens enter the market because players need gold right away for something, meaning when that token is sold and the gold gets into the player's hands, if they're not playing the speculation game of buying gold now to buy cheaper tokens later, because that's a thing, they're more than likely going to spend that gold right away. So I expect inflation to steadily go up with more gold moving around, to be countered by lots of folks farming up materials to sell that kind of gold, increasing the supply. It's going to be fascinating to look back on this when the dust settles. What'll the economy look like, and how many ended up throwing down for the mount? And as for the critics, I totally hear you. It's not so unreasonable to call Blizzard out for having all these promotions and sales and whatever running when the launch of this patch is so demonstrably flawed. We can write up all sorts of dystopian anti-corporate narratives and they'd probably hit the mark. It should go without saying that the WoW team should, whatever, do better. We also can't ignore that they also bust their ass to put out these fires, whether they were known bugs or surprise problems. The patch is in a much better state today as opposed to Tuesday, and that's not an excuse, it's just the ongoing thing that happens with these sorts of games. And you know me, I don't really have it in me to keep throwing a wet towel on every cool thing the WoW team does because, oh my god, what about the latest thing you should be mad at? But that's the show, and I want to thank all of you who've been watching me live this week. It just totally turned out great. I'm glad we got to help people get some pets, and grats to people who won giveaway stuff, and a big thanks to my guildmate Vardox, who supplied us with some trolley pet codes. We also got to give thanks to our patrons for keeping the lights on, and thanks to you, viewer. You made it to the end, you fed the algorithm. So stay tuned for Monday when I hope to have a new Bob track for you. Please like the video, subscribe for more WoW coverage. Catch me live and I'll catch you later. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.